This husband and wife team started with 0 short-term rentals and now manages over 40 in just a few years. They left their jobs to start this short-term rental business, and today they're going to break down exactly how they do it, when they knew it was time to leave their jobs, and the systems and processes they used to have built a massive team that is managing all the units with them. Find out more in today's episode of Bigger Stays. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bigger Stays. My name is Garrett Brown with BiggerPockets. We have Luke and Beth Kolk today joining us, who have built an amazing co-hosting business and all throughout different types of short-term rentals that they are going to talk about. Luke and Beth, thanks for joining the show.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks.
So I heard about y'all initially through a few of my BiggerPockets associates, and y'all are actually going to be speaking at BPCon 25 this year with us, and which we're super excited to happen. It is happening in Las Vegas, so if you haven't got your tickets yet, we'll put a link in the description. But we're going to talk today about the, y'all's short-term rental journey and where y'all have pivoted and where y'all have been successful in it. So give me a little insight of how y'all even got into short-term rentals, or what gave y'all that itch.
Yeah, it's been a pretty wild ride, but to take it all the way back, we started roughly 2019. I actually dived into the arbitrage model back in 2019 from an Instagram ad, funny enough. I saw some course selling it. I was like, okay, at the time I was working as a police officer and I was only taking home $2,200 a month. So I was like, we got to find something here, and doubled down on that model the first year and had about 30 units. And that kind of kicked it off. We're like, this is definitely something that could be a full-fledged business. It's super funny. We started out I probably quit my job after 4 listings or so. I was making like $12K a month and didn't realize the seasonality of it. So September came and then it slapped us right there. And I was like, okay, we probably need to scale this and make some more units.
Lesson learned.
Yeah, that got us started for sure.
We'll tap into the arbitrage model for a moment because that's where y'all kind of started. And a lot of people are interested in that model now. How did y'all kind of land some of y'all's first clients? And then how has the arbitrage model shifted over the years? Is it still something y'all lean into? And, where are y'all kind of seeing that particular model going?
It's funny how it's come full circle. So we started arbitrage. That main method was more through Facebook Marketplace. I would just type in homes for rent by owner. And any house that remotely made sense, I was like, let me just shoot them a message. I was educated enough on the matter where I could kind of speak about it. And for most people, I'm like, all right, it's not an information problem, it's an execution problem. So if I just take massive action, I can land somebody. And our very first one was a landlord that just so happened to have 70 properties in the area. And we convinced them somehow. We showed up looking fairly professional and could talk the talk a little bit. That kind of got us our first deal. We kind of progressed to then co-hosting, which I'm happy to go into how we landed those deals because that's a little bit different of a method there.
Do y'all do the arbitrage model at all anymore, or y'all are just straight co-hosting now?
We do. We have several arbitrage units still. Lesson learned along the way, right? We had some we've dropped off just because they weren't as desirable. But the ones that made sense, we've held on to and continue to do well with. So we have a little bit of a mix at the moment.
Nice. Good to hear, because I hear a lot that, the arbitrage model is dead, which it obviously has changed quite, extensively over the years. I did a little arbitrage when I first started back about 2018 as well. But now, for me, I haven't found anything that made sense, but it's also not my particular skill set. So it's good to hear somebody that is still finding deals out there, because I love trying to find, the least barrier to entries within short-term rentals. And I personally say that all the time about co-hosting. So where was y'all's pivot to co-hosting, and, what is some of the things y'all have seen to establish new clients in that business?
Yeah, and I'll kind of tap into the first question initially for the arbitrage side. What pivoted was, to me, you have to go on either extreme. For if there's a new person getting into the game, I'd either say, hey, do your little 1-bedroom or go big like a 5 or 6 bedroom, because it's the people in the middle that are getting squeezed is what we're kind of seeing. Because yes, the standard Airbnb is rising. You're going to need to go the extra mile in design and staging, but that would be kind of arbitrage side. For the co-hosting, it's funny. We started with so many arbitrage, people started to see, wow, you're doing pretty well with this. Do you mind managing mine? So I would start with your sphere to try and find people that maybe they are a real estate agent or maybe they know someone with an Airbnb. But if you're really going to push organically and find other co-hosting listings, I'd start through Facebook as well. I'd go into a market where you either live in or want to be involved in, and start providing value to these people by reviewing their listings or just engaging with them, because then you become known in these forums and in these Facebook pages as the guy that gives good advice. So my kind of one-liner there was I'd get them to send me their listing link, and then I would comb through it and I'd see, I don't know, 5 to 10 to 15 things that could use improvement. And I shoot them a text saying, hey, I found 10 things on your listing that could use improvement. Are you open to a 10-minute phone call on how we can improve? So that way you're kind of looking shoulder to shoulder saying, hey, let's review your listing rather than me hard selling you on the co-hosting model. Because what people find is they're like, wow, he might be a little bit educated on it. It seems like a lot of work, but at the end of the conversation, you can be like, hey, you can take all this and run with it. But if you don't have time, which it sounds like you don't, I'd be happy to manage for 20%. And they were just landing. I was like, I think I got something going on here.
Nice. So you were in like local Facebook groups that are like Airbnb owners, or like, how are you what kind of Facebook groups are you navigating really?
Yeah. So every major city is going to have some type of Facebook group. So for us, Wilmington, North Carolina, you could do St. Augustine, Florida is another one we're in. And they might only have 1,000 members or something like that, but you'll be shocked at the amount of people that are maybe complaining about occupancy, revenue, or something like that. And those are the people you're going to target, right? I might click their profile, do a little bit of research, and then eventually like, okay, they might have 2 or 3 Airbnbs. Let me see how I can help them and provide the value and get the conversation moving that way.
Nice. Do y'all have any properties you currently own that y'all manage, or y'all just do a fully arbitrage co-hosting model in y'all's business?
Currently, our portfolio is just co-host properties. We live in the property we own and owned others previously, but we're focused on the co-host now.
How many units are y'all managing at the moment?
48.
48. Wow. That's a lot. So how do you manage the cleanliness and the standardization of like making sure your rentals are up to the par that you want it to be with so many units?
It's definitely a lot of building on the back end. Our systems, as far as having a good tech stack that's kind of backing us, that helps us to automate a lot. When it comes to automated messages, automating scheduling the cleaner, paying the cleaner, automating setting smart lock door codes, things like that. That helps a lot because it takes a lot off of our plate to have to know to do every reservation that comes in, every guest that arrives. So we try to automate as much as we can. We also look to time block our day, kind of make sure that we're prioritizing tasks and things at the same time. But yeah, having as many automations in the background as possible helps us to keep everything running smoothly.
What's a little bit of y'all's tech stack, if y'all just kind of run through just a slight bit of it to kind of give some people in the audience an insight into what this actually takes to scale and run a business like this? So
we have a property management software, HostAway. So we use that to channel all the bookings from every platform we use. Airbnb, VRBO, direct bookings all get put in that one system. We also utilize the smart lock feature on that app as well. We use Turno for cleaners. So every project is automatically scheduled for a cleaner. They get a notification as soon as the booking comes in. They get to accept it or reject it, and then it goes straight to the backup if they do. As soon as they finish the project, they get automatically paid in Turno as well. And then we use Price Labs for dynamic pricing.
You have like systems that might help, because if you're starting out, you're like, how do I run this business, or what do I need to do? And there's something called the EOS model, which helped us out a ton. I don't know if you've heard of like Profit First and Traction.
Yep, we just went to that at BiggerPockets, actually. That's what they just installed. Mm-hmm.
To me, it definitely gave a lot of clarity to what's our next business move and how do we run a meeting? How do we like organize the finances on it? So the tech stack is great for the automation, the delegation, but then it's like, all right, what does the leadership component look like for our team of 7? Stuff like that really kind of took us from like a mom and pop to, hey, let's run a true business here.
I was going to add, it's something you don't think about when you first start, because it was just us, it was just Luke and I. We were running ourselves. And as soon as you start adding employees, okay, now we have a team and we've got to make sure everyone's on the same page and we're connecting weekly, monthly, that kind of thing. So that has definitely helped a lot to keep organized on the back end.
So say somebody is just starting to kind of scale their portfolio co-hosting business. What was your first hire that could almost be a game changer for somebody that's looking to scale their short-term rental operations?
So it was when we realized that we were spending more time in the day-to-day reactively responding to maintenance requests or guest needs, where we weren't focused as much on the growth and the scaling, that we realized we needed to make a hire. So that was one of the first things that we looked to offload, was the guest messaging and guest maintenance scheduling cleaners, things like that. So a virtual assistant was our first hire. Conveniently, it was a friend of ours locally. She was working from home. She was able to do it remotely in her spare time during the day. So that was super helpful. Once it became more of a task with more properties, we looked to outsource overseas as well.
Do y'all have an inspector that works under y'all or anything that like goes and checks out units before guests come? That's a common thing within, some STR teachers, for lack of better words there. Like, are y'all having extra inspectors go to every property before somebody checks in? Or how are y'all maintaining that high standard at each place, working a lot remotely and working with VAs? Because I think that's a concern for a lot of people as they scale, is like losing, their ability to have that magic touch, quote unquote, on each property.
Right. So we might have that periodically. Being in different markets, we have different contacts in each area. So we definitely have multiple eyes on a property at any given time, multiple times a month. Obviously, the cleaner is the first line of defense. They're going to be the ones that report to us first. And we do set expectations pretty high with them, have them sign a cleaner agreement and understand what we are looking for from them and reiterate that every time. And then every now and then we'll send in what we call like a quality control, like you said, inspector, to kind of go behind them and make sure they didn't miss anything. So we do that every now and then. It might not be every clean, but it might be once a month or so, twice a month.
As you've kind of scaled and, it obviously becomes tougher to a degree, but also becomes easier as you're building out your systems. What do you think is like an underrated tactic or mindset shift that you had that helped you get prepared for adding these more units? And, it seems like obviously a much increase in workload, but we need to find that work-life balance. So how are y'all able to kind of figure that out and work that, through each one of y'all?
Yeah, I'd go a step farther and say, what does the efficiency look like? So what we found out and what was a big paradigm shift, I know for me, at least personally, was what's the difference between like your day-to-day work and then like project-based work? Because if you're mixing the two, now you might be, let's say, working on a project, get a message from a guest or something, you have to stop and then go do this thing. So now you're getting tugged left and right rather than saying, okay, let's potentially do a time study. Maybe you wrote down every 15 minutes what you're doing for the week. Then you go back and say, hey, energy levels versus how much money did you make? So did this task give you energy? Was it net neutral? Or is it like, hey, don't really like to do this? And then did this task make us money? So that was kind of the filter in which we used. And if it wasn't really making us money or me money and I didn't really enjoy it, then I was like, can we delegate this thing? Can we pawn it off? Or can it be more efficient in some way where I might enjoy it? That's something I think a lot of people miss. They just say, hey, got to bite down on my mouthpiece. I'll work more or work harder. When in fact, it's like, once you're past 5 to 7 listings, it starts to become a true job. And you got to think, all right, which of these tasks are actually making me money and which ones can I delegate?
I just hit 8 listings myself and it has been a lot I'm hiring my second virtual assistant, even though I don't know if I'm ready for that. I'm just doing it to get ahead of things, So that's been definitely like a trial and tribulation of mine going forward. So I've been constantly, figuring that out and sorting through different systems and how I want to attack it. As you've, trying to keep the quality control for your owners, how are y'all relaying a lot of this information to owners and working with owners? Because that's something I hear within the co-hosting space. Some people are, and everybody's different, and this is something different for each person. But like, oh, this owner is so hard to work with, and this owner wants things this way. Like, how have you find maybe the interview process or the red flag process of like, this is probably not an owner we want to work with, or a property, couldn't even not be the owner, maybe the property. And how have you worked with these owners going forward to keep the satisfaction on both ends, because it's a two-way highway there?
When I first started, it was just like, hey, does the property make 100K and is the owner cool to work with? And I was like, that's all I needed. Now we have different levels of standard, but a tactic that we're starting to use to set expectations and really set the standard of what we need, it's going to start on our end of saying, hey, can we perform for these hosts? That is like the biggest bottom line. Like, are you performing to keep retention? Then it's like small tactics like this. So at the end of each month, they're going to get their owner's report, as most managers do. But can you take it a step further and say, hey, these are the market trends we're seeing in this area. Here's how our company is responding and addressing the market. Because now I like to think of it as like a mindset shift of, imagine you're the owner, I'm the co-host, and I call you, I don't know, a few times a month and it's always negative. Eventually you're going to associate me with something negative. It's like subconsciously. So I'm like, all right, don't be the only time you reach out. It's it's bad. Like be the good person sometimes not, right? So for us to set the standard expectations of, hey, they're actually seeing what's going on in the market, they're addressing it. That's eliminating some conversations that we even need to have. And then just the bottom line of performing well. So to me, I'm eliminating a lot of that because anything times 50 listings, 48 listings, it's like, starts to become a lot. So if we can reduce that's great.
Let's give an actionable step for the audience. Let's say they have no properties or no experience at all in this. And I see this all the time because I think co-hosting is one of the best ways to get into short-term rentals and, or even in real estate in general, because you're either going to, go the real estate investing route or go buy businesses or something. Like it's a little both. So what would you give advice for somebody just starting out, has no property management experience or anything like that? How would you attack it to get your first co-hosting client or listing? What would be the advice y'all would give to somebody?
So you got to start to build confidence. And most people are like, fake it till you make it, which I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm like, hey, have a stack of undeniable proof of you are who you say you are. I stole that from Alex Ramosi. It's a great line that he thought of. Yeah, it's funny. Long story short, it's like, how can we get in the reps and get educated on the first front? Because so many people just like jump the gun when it's like, can you land a deal? Possibly. But where are you going to get educated? That'd be my first step. Whether it's YouTube, you're going to buy a course, whatever you're going to do, like make sure you take a month to at least understand what makes a good listing, how to interact with owners, what your systems are going to be. Once that's dialed in, to me, the low-hanging fruit is your sphere. Like reach out to people on, hey, do you know anyone that has an Airbnb that needs help managing? If you've kind of exhausted all that, that's when I start tagging the Facebook groups. Start providing value because you should have been educated at this point to say, hey, this makes a good listing. I can identify this person doesn't have that. Let me give that value for free, build a relationship, and then eventually they're going to be like, wow, can you just do this for me? It makes so much sense.
No, that's the reciprocity effect where it's like you give them a little bit and then they feel almost indebted to you. Like, well, dang, he gave me some good advice. So maybe I should give them a shot though. So that's very actionable advice. And I think that's the thing that people need to digest is you really need to have a high level education because you have to provide some value to that person. Everybody's such a me world where they're like, give me the listing. It would help me. It would help me. And it's like, how can you help that owner? And if you're not educated, which talking about the Facebook groups, I think that's one of the best tips I've heard in a while for people looking to get further in this, because the thing that I hear about people is, like, oh, nobody in my sphere has, any listings, which is not usually true because they probably asked one person, like you didn't really go into your sphere. Like I was a real estate agent. I mean, I still am a real estate agent, but not as much. But before, like when I was getting my first listings, it was like I was reaching out to people I, talked to in college and I talked to them in 10 years, like your sphere is much bigger than you think it is too. And you'll get a few of them like, I ain't heard from you in so long. Why are you talking to me? But hey, you gotta shoot the shot to even make it sometimes. So
I'd even say two things on that because so many people don't understand the volume that it might take. Because you said your sphere, it's like you might think it's your core 10 people that you interact daily, but like, hey, let's think about 300, 400 people that you might need to have touches with or talk to actually get some traction. And even if they're willing to have a conversation, like you said, now you got to give the value and it's got to be good enough for them to then allow you to co-host their property. So it sounds kind of funny. I always say like the drug dealer sales pitch, the first hit's on me and then you got to pay for it afterwards. So give them for free to start and then hopefully you can land it later on.
And be the person, Luke always says, be the person that whenever something short-term rental related comes up, they think of you.
Yeah.
That you are first to come to mind. And that is the reason you get that referral.
The power of the follow-up for sure.
Yeah. Power of the follow-up is I tell this stat to people all the time. I learned this in my heyday of real estate cold calling is most sales are not completed until like the 8th or 9th call. I think like 70% of them are like 7+ calls is how you got there. And I hated cold calling, still do, but it took me, I finally realized that I was like, oh, I have to call these. I thought it used to be, oh, I'll call them one time. Oh, they're not interested. Okay. That's the end of it. And then when you continuously follow up and continue to provide value, that's when things start to tip your way some. So that's all very good advice. What's next for y'all? Like, I'm sure there's a lot on the plate and there's a lot of things y'all are trying to figure out for the next level. You don't have to give everything away because hopefully by BPCon, when everybody's there that's watching this will attend with us, you'll have a few updates. But what's kind of next on the horizon, or where are you seeing the short-term rental market go in general with y'all's business aligned with it?
Yeah, for us, we're at the point where we're trying to scale the co-host business to a size where we hit our initial cash flow goal and to then roll it into either bigger acquisitions, potentially boutique hotels. I just think that's the next logical progression. I think if we float around 75 to 85 units, that'd be the sweet spot for us on our income goal. I think so many people divert the attention and put little eggs in different baskets when it's like, hey, let's double down on one thing, get really good at it, and then diversify if we want to maintain that wealth, right? So that's where I kind of see us heading. Would you add anything to that?
The portfolio acquisition is kind of the goal. We're looking to kind of veer from acquiring one at a time, maybe, to 5 to 10 at a time would be ideal on our end. So yeah, narrowing down our markets. We used to kind of accept in multiple places, but we're finding where we're best suited to host in and focusing on those areas mostly.
That was going to be my next question, and one of my last questions is, some people, they try to sprawl out all over the country and they want a unit in Washington and they want one in Florida and they want 3 in Tennessee. Like,
we've done it. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So that was my question: is what are y'all's thoughts on that? And you might have already answered it and alluded to it, but where are y'all seeing this going forward as you're trying to build this operation? Is that a smart tactic, or should people kind of, put their eggs in just a couple baskets or something? What are you kind of thinking with that?
I think it's going to depend upon the individual. There's a part of me that says, hey, like the momentum matters more. And if you get good at building teams remote and everything like that, there is a place for that. We're at the scale now where it's like, all right, you can't just have 50 different units everywhere and building teams everywhere. While it's possible, it's just not efficient. So to me, pick your top 3 and go in those areas. But honestly, it's going to depend upon the person. I have a lot of people that say there's no deals in my backyard or something like that. So I don't want that to be a hurdle. Like, you're totally good and confident and have the ability to go remote. And so I push people there, but don't go too wide, too far. Like, if you need to do a couple units here and there just to get the taste of it, get the momentum built, I'm fine with that. But when you have a true business beyond, let's call it 10 units, I would probably think on focusing on 1 to maybe 3 markets.
Awesome. I appreciate that advice. I'm sure a lot of people do in person, because a lot of door disease is very popular right now, and they're trying to grab as many doors as they can. And some people kind of, bite off a little more they can chew than when they're getting into it. So this is great advice from people that have been having sustained success in an ever-changing market. Where can people follow y'all or reach out if they have any questions for y'all going forward?
Primarily Instagram. We're on Instagram at Kolk Homes. Pretty easy to find there.
And we will leave that in the show notes below in the description for everyone that want to reach out and have any questions. I appreciate y'all joining and giving such great insight. This is a topic that we don't cover a lot, but it is massively popular within the community because of just the different tactics and the way it's, you can get started with this. So if you're interested in co-hosting, Luke and Beth will be at BPCon talking exclusively about their co-hosting journey. So it'd be a great time to join in Las Vegas. Hopefully not lose any gambling money there and just get some. I might lose a little bit, but maybe I have to, hopefully don't tell BiggerPockets. But at the same time, we're looking for a lot of short-term rental investing education, which we will provide. I appreciate y'all joining today and giving us some great insight. And yeah, I look forward to seeing y'all in person in Las Vegas soon.
Love it. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for having us. We're excited.
No problem. Y'all take care. We'll talk to y'all soon.